So hello and welcome. I've entitled this video "The Truth About NASA." This is following a video I saw with Jeran and Archersage. I've got a subtitle for it, which is "Why Are Jeran and Archersage So Dishonest?" And in this video I'm going to take one example from their recent chat and just show what dishonest liars they are. Hello YouTube and welcome. I was going to do a very long video looking at this live chat between Jeran and Archersage about NASA and NASA images and Archersage's so-called analysis of NASA images, which he's been flooding onto YouTube recently and is complete baloney. A little while ago I had a brief exchange in comments and exchange of videos with Archersage because he had made a complete mistake on one of his videos about the lunar reconnaissance orbiter images and analyzing the Apollo landing sites, and he was forced to take down his video, and publish an apology. And he made a little bit of a thing about how grown up he was, and how this was a plus point for him in that he was man enough to take down his video because it had an error in it. His subsequent action was to block me so that I couldn't criticize any more of his videos. So that's very grown up and manly of you, isn't it, Archersage? However, I digress. I'm going to do a much shorter video today, just taking one image that Archersage criticizes that NASA has published, and just looking at the completely naive and dishonest and deceptive way that he portrays what NASA does, and how he tries to spin something that is in fact totally innocent into something that he pretends is covering up the flat earth, which obviously there is no flat earth. So I'll play a little bit of Jeran's dreadful very long video, so you can hear what they actually say about this image, and then I'll give you some real information about it.
Can they be called composite images? Again, sure, they're composite images. They're a combination of many images into one, but that should definitely...
they're a combination of different modeling software.
Exactly. That's what I was going to...
So he calls it modeling software, so he doesn't even accept that they're genuine images at all.
They're a combination of...
They can call it images.
This was also supposed to be from the LRO. Same thing we just saw, and this is just crazy. There's no explanation for this other than they're doing what they told us they were doing. Look at this. Now, if you just increase the brightness, normal, just a normal brightness, you don't really see it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not until, which I could be using levels and curves, which would reveal it a little bit more. But they don't even hide this. So not only is the Earth pasted in, but the moon is also pasted in. This stuff right here is above the moon. The moon's right here. So what's this? So they literally took this layer of some computer graphic model, and that's the foreground. And then they took this is the blue marble. They tell you it's not the blue marble, that it's real time. It's not. It's the same thing as the blue marble, just from a different angle. And then he tilted the box. Yeah, I guess that's to get that 23.4% tilt, right?
So another example of a flat earther completely misunderstanding anything about the tilt of the Earth. The Earth's tilt is relative to the sun. Really, it's relative to its plane of orbit. It's got nothing to do with a tilt relative to the moon or relative to its position within the frame of a photograph. Just crazy ignorance on their part. And this is the big problem, a big problem with flat earthers. They don't even bother to try and find out what the spherical Earth model, the heliocentric model of the solar system actually is. They don't understand how it works, and so they think they've got the right to criticize it. It's bonkers. Anyway, I'll let them carry on.
I have no idea.
That's why the box is tilted. So, I mean, yeah, I wish more people would go through many of these pictures and look for themselves and do many of the same things and see just how many times you see how poorly they fail to cover up the box. And the only conclusion I can come up with is that they do not care. They're lazy. I mean, $52 million a day, and they can't hide this.
No.
He says they can't hide this. Actually, they don't want to hide this. And he says he wishes more people actually look at these images. Well, okay, let's actually take him up on that. Let's look at some of this. Let's actually find out some information about the LRO and the LROC, the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter camera. And let's actually look at what this image is, what NASA says this image is, how it was created and or obtained, and what the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter is really doing. So here we are on the nasa.gov website, and there is a December the 18th, 2015 post. NASA releases new high-resolution Earthrise image, and this is the image that Archersage was referring to, with the Earth and the lunar surface in the foreground. Well, let's see what NASA actually says about it. Okay, there's a bit of blurb at the beginning saying how stunning the picture is, and it is stunning, and what is actually in it. But then in the third paragraph here, it says, in this composite image. So NASA is right up front on the days that they release this, stating quite clearly this is a composite image, and saying that the Earth is rising over the lunar horizon from the viewpoint of the spacecraft. With the center of the Earth just off the coast of Liberia, etc., etc. Okay, and then it goes on to explain that when the LRO was launched and what it's doing, because this is a kind of press release, if you like, and people won't necessarily know all the details of the mission. It's collected a treasure trove of data with 7 powerful instruments, making invaluable contribution to our knowledge of the Moon. It's stating it experiences Earth rises every day 12 times. However, the spacecraft is almost always busy imaging the lunar surface, so only rarely does an opportunity arise that its camera instrument can capture a view of the Earth. The Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter was sent up to survey and study the Moon. It was not sent up there to take snapshots to please people like Jeran and Archersage, or to prove to them that the Earth is round or spherical. It's sent up there to study the Moon, and that's what it does. And then it says occasionally the LRO points off into space to acquire observations of the extremely thin lunar atmosphere, because the lunar atmosphere does exist, is very, very thin, and studying that is part of its job. It also needs to perform instrument calibration measurements. Now, during those movements where its camera points off into space, or cameras point off into space, sometimes Earth and maybe other planets as well pass through the camera's field of view. And dramatic images such as the one shown here are acquired. They're not acquired as a snapshot. That's not the way the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter cameras work. So next paragraph. This image was composed from a series of images taken on October 12th, when the LRO was about 83 miles above the Moon's far side crater called Compton. Capturing an image of the Earth and Moon with LRO's camera, the LROC instrument, is a complicated task. First, the spacecraft must be rolled to the side. Then the spacecraft slews with the direction of travel to maximize the width of the lunar horizon in the LROC's narrow angle camera image. So there are 3 cameras, I think, on the LROC. And there are, I think, 2 narrow camera angles. I might be wrong about that, and 1 wide angle camera. All this takes place while the LRO is traveling faster than 3,500 miles an hour. So you can see and it's all being done remotely, remember, with a time delay for the data to come and go. So by the time that you get the data and think, oh, we got that wrong, or that wasn't perfectly aligned, the spacecraft had already moved considerable distance, and the opportunity can be lost. And it's a really sophisticated operation doing this. The high-resolution narrow-angle camera on the LRA takes black and white images, while the lower-resolution wide-angle camera takes color images. So you might wonder how we got a high-resolution picture of the Earth in color. Since the spacecraft, Earth and Moon are all in motion, we had to do some special processing. And I might click on that link in a minute and see what special processing actually was. To create an image that represents the view of the Earth and Moon at one particular time. The final Earth image contains both wide-angle camera and narrow-angle camera information. The wide angle providing the color and the narrow angle providing the high-resolution detail. So NASA is freely admitting that this image had to go through it was difficult to set up, difficult to capture. It's not a single image, it's a composite of many images, and special processing was required, and the images themselves come from 2 different cameras, at least 2 different cameras taking these images. And then there's a bit more blurb about, which is not particularly interesting to us with respect to this particular photograph. So for Archersage and Jeran to sit there and giggle about the fact that they've shown it's a composite image, or they've shown that it's a processed image, is bizarre. NASA admitted that when they very first produced it. They know it's a composite image. It had to be a composite image because of what the LRO does, how it works, what cameras it's got. The special processing, I haven't actually looked at this, but we'll see what it actually says here. Okay, so here it appears that they actually go into quite some detail about exactly how the processing was done. So there you've got them, Archersage, Jeranism, having a little giggle to themselves like naughty little schoolboys about how they've shown and proven how NASA fakes images when all the detail of what NASA did is available on the internet, and you can see quite clearly what they've done. It says the image taken when the LRO was 134 kilometers, I think it said 87 miles or 83 miles or something in the previous one, so that'd be about right, above the far side Compton crater, capturing an image of Earth and Moon with the LROC's complicated task. So this is repeating what was in the previous image, previous page. The reconstruction of the Earth Moon image is not a simple matter, and that is just to get the black and white image. So it says planning animation of LROC Earth Slew. So let's have a little play of this and see what this shows. So this is obviously a computer model where they are assessing the LRO's movement and the relative to the Earth and the Moon, and trying to calculate and work out what they need to do in order to line the spacecraft up. Animation created by the LRO Missions Operator Center with specialized spacecraft slew planning software. The red vertical line indicates the narrow angle camera line scan. The narrow camera was integrating as the red line scans from left to right. So actually, if you look at this, this is the part of the image or the view that narrow angle camera is actually able to capture. And so if you look at that, you see just what a small amount of that is. It's going across the Earth and being able to capture part of the Earth there, and then it ends up coming back and catching it again and going back round that way. Now, obviously, this is a computer model, and it's being shown just to illustrate a point. And then it says, what about color? Well, the wide-angle camera images the same scene repeatedly, while the narrow-angle camera scans across the scene just once. So you get a lot of color images and also a lot of black and white images of the same scene in a period of time. Since the narrow-angle camera picture scale is 75 times smaller than the wide-angle camera picture scale, a straight Earth-Moon composite would show a very fuzzy Earth and a sharp Moon. Fair enough. The LROC team took advantage of the multiple wide-angle camera images of the Earth to create a sharpened wide-angle camera Earth. So they've had to use composite images from the wide-angle camera in order to get a sharpness of the Earth image that is good enough to use in the picture. For each wide-angle camera pixel, the Earth was imaged between 20 and 50 times. The wide-angle FOV moved only a small fraction of a pixel between each images. And these multiple looks were combined for the Earth only. For the Earth only, the Moon, as shown, is narrow-angle camera. So that's why the Moon looks in very grayscale, very black and white and grey, and the Earth is in color. The colors are only approximately what an intrepid explorer would see from the Moon, because the human eye is fully sensitive to all colors across the visible wavelength range, whereas the wide-angle camera sees through a set of narrow band filters. Again, this is part of the design of this camera to study properties of the Moon and its composition. It's not designed to take holiday snaps that look like a human eye would see. It's designed to do a job of scientific work. So it combines wavelengths that are in the orange part of the spectrum, the yellow-green part, violet bands, and does that. There's another animation here which I haven't looked at before, but it kind of shows the wide-angle camera frames captured during the LROC Earth Slew. So you can see the images that were captured. These are shown in black and white here, but presumably color, and you can see the Earth going below the horizon, but whether this is in reverse and it's actually an Earth set rather than Earth rise, who knows, but there you go. The Venetian blind effect demonstrates how wide-angle camera image is built up frame by frame. The gaps are due to the real separation of the wide-angle filters on the CCD. The longest wavelength band is at the bottom of the scene and the shortest is at the top. The animation is sped up 4 times. The Earth is much brighter. It has a higher reflectance than the Moon, especially from this angle. The Earth was captured near noon, while the limb of the Moon was just appearing from the shadows of night. So as you're going over it's talking about it being effectively night on the Moon, and the Earth that we're looking at is effectively at noon for the center of the Earth image there, which would be an Africa. In the opening image, the Moon and Earth were contrast stretched separately to bring out details on the lunar surface. The 2 contrast stretch makes for a spectacular image, but it may be misleading in a purely scientific sense. Below you can see both the natural contrast and enhanced contrast. Which do you prefer? So NASA gives you some varying versions of this in black and white, as well as the color image, to see what you think of the way that they did it and how it was produced. What you think of the appearance, not how scientifically sort of correct or these images are. And we have finally this image here, which is the one that was produced, and you can download that as a TIFF if you want. There are full resolution Earth and Moon black and white single stretch, and black and white dual stretch, and color single stretch, and color dual stretch images available to download. And there are also other images that they have released previously. Who's trying to be deceptive here? Is NASA trying to be deceptive by explaining in detail what they actually did? Or is Jeran and Archersage being deceptive in claiming that NASA pretends that this is a single snapshot image of the Earth and Moon? I think it's the latter, and I think these people need to grow up and actually start to seek the truth instead of creating really false and deceptive videos arguing that NASA lies about everything. Let's have a look at another page. What is LROC? What is the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter camera? It's a system of 3 cameras mounted on the reconnaissance orbiter that capture high-resolution black and white images and moderate resolution multispectral images. They're not color images as they explained before. They take images over a range of different spectra or wavelengths that give can be used to give a sense of color. LROC consists of 2 narrow-angle cameras that are designed to provide a 0.5 meter scale panchromatic images over a 5-kilometer swathe. So that's what that does. And the wide-angle camera provides images of a scale of 100 meters per pixel in 7 color bands over a 60-kilometer swathe. The sequence and compression system supports data acquisition for both cameras. So the data that comes in from both cameras, because the digital cameras, is goes into the same system. LROC is a modified version of the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, which is on one of the Mars probes. And a picture of the rocket blasting off there. So the launch the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter is a robotic spacecraft now orbiting the Moon at an altitude of 50 to 200 kilometers. Primary objective to make fundamental scientific discoveries about the Moon. Guess what, Jeran? Guess what, Archersage? It's not up there to take snapshots of the Earth to try and convince people who still think the Earth is flat, that it is in fact a sphere. It's not what the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter is there to do. The fact that it took an image, or they were able to produce an image from the data sent back from the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter is entirely incidental, and it is done probably as a technical exercise as much as anything, but also just to give a spectacular image for us to see. We can't go to the Moon as individuals, and you know, some very lucky people have been, and some more lucky people in the future will go, but most people only get their information through photographs, through video, and so on. And NASA's been, devoting some valuable resources to providing that kind of information for us, and I for one like to thank them for it. LROC is one of 7 instruments on board the LRO, so the camera, all 3 cameras, are only one of 7 instruments. It's all up there to do a job. If they were just trying to send something or create something to convince flat earthers, would they really bother having 7 other instruments all sending back data? Together, those instruments have a downlink allocation of 310 gigabits. This is all technical stuff, up to 4 passes per day, translates to 155 gigabits per day, all gigabytes per day, sorry, and all very, sort of just adding more detail to what the system is actually doing. Let's have a look at another page. Okay, this one I'm not sure I just had several up here. This is probably a better one. So the LRO data products. So the overall LRO PDS archive can be accessed here. So the data that comes from the LRO is a lot of it is available for people to look at. There's a lot of information that NASA provides, and I'm sure that if people really wanted to study, as many scientists and observatories do want to study, data coming from this, NASA shares that data with them. I don't know what we get if we click on some of these archives, but have raw data, calibrated, processed data. And you get files. Pick one at random. So, flight data from the crater instrument, flown in the reconnaissance orbiter, includes housekeeping, primary science, secondary science, data levels. Data file names begin with blah blah. I have no idea what I'll actually get if I. Okay, clicking on that stopped my my recording, but you get data. You can download this data. You can look at this data. You can study and analyze some of the data, and there are loads and loads of these documents, all available. Look how many documents of data. Yeah, all available for people to study and to analyze. And that was just for 1 year of the, what is it, 8 years that, pardon me, well, we're now into the 9th year of this particular mission. Now, I ask you, if an organization was trying to fake a mission, and they were only producing a computer generated model of the moon and a computer generated model of the Earth, and publishing the odd photograph to try and convince Joe Public that that was what was what the Earth looked like. Would all of this stuff really exist? Would all of this be available? Would they publish all the details about exactly how the images were, the photographs were produced and the images were produced? This is the LROC data, and the cameras on LROC are able to take such detailed stuff. We use our images data to create amazing products like shaded relief models and so on. I mean, really, guys, do you think this is all faked? Here's one of the Apollo landing sites after being imaged by this would be the narrow angle cameras imaging of that site, so detailed that you can actually see. I don't know if it does it here, possibly not. But you can actually see the individual lander and the rover and the trails of footprints and rover tracks and so on. Now, you guys argue that every single bit of this is fake. But NASA consists of nothing more than a team of people, or a huge team of people, working away constantly to fake every single bit of information that's on these websites, showing what the data and images and so on is actually available. I don't know what to say to you guys. Do you genuinely believe what you're doing? Do you genuinely believe you're right by saying that everything about the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, everything, not just the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter, all the other missions, NASA has loads of missions and loads of projects on the go. Every single thing about them is a lie. Every single thing about them is fake. Or is there actually a satellite up there orbiting the moon with sophisticated instruments on, sending data back to the Earth that is analyzed by scientists and allowing us to get really detailed, good quality information about what the moon is made of, what meteor impacts occur, what resources are up there that future missions, manned missions and robotic missions to the moon might be able to capitalize on. Is it which is more likely, that they're faking the whole thing or that the whole thing is real? Now, even if you think they're faking it, you need to come on, you need to present this stuff. You need to present all the information that NASA puts out and explain why they're faking it all. To simply say, oh, look, this image is a composite, when NASA has already told you it's a composite and explained how and why it was produced. And say it's a composite, therefore NASA fakes everything, is just ridiculous. So come on, guys, here's a challenge. Go through the real data, the real information about the images that you're looking at, about the missions that you're looking at and criticizing, and take each piece apart and show how it's faked, how it's not real, how it's not true.